Hello, everyone. Good morning. I am Teacher Isabel. We are here. It is 8 a.m. in California, so good morning. But if it's not in the morning for you, good afternoon and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today, we are going to be talking about passive voice versus active voice because Selene, our winner, and you can already see on my screen that she's already waiting in our waiting room. She wanted to talk about this. So you are all welcome to join us, of course, as always. If you are watching us in the Facebook Live, make sure you say hello, right, in the comments. Say hello, tell us where you're from, where are you watching us from, where are you joining us from. While you say hello, I'll go ahead and let Selena come in. Yeah, there we go. Have her here. Alrighty, Selena, can you hear me?
Yes.
There you are. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I am fine. And you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So, Selena, tell us where we are already on the Facebook Live, just so you know, okay? But tell us, where are you from? Where are you right now? What time is it for you right now?
Okay. Well, I am from Peru, and right now is 10 a.m.
Okay, nice. So you're two
Well,
hours ahead of California.
okay. I stay in Lima, Peru. Yeah,
Nice. That's so cool. I want to go to Peru so bad. But the pandemic.
yeah. It's
Yes.
it's very interesting. I like the stereotypical food.
Really
Mhm.
nice. That's so cool. What is some typical food in Peru?
Mm,
Like,
sorry, can you repeat your
yeah.
question,
So
please?
what is some typical food in Peru, or
Oh,
what are your staple foods? Is another way of saying that.
okay. Okay. And the typical food of Peru is ceviche, um,
So for people who
arroz
are
con
watching
pollo.
us, okay. So Selena, really
Uh-huh.
quick. So for people who are watching us on the Facebook Live, ceviche is like a seafood dish, right? What do you put in your ceviche?
Okay, in ceviche, it's uh, it's a fish, but um,
Do you do like shrimp and octopus as well? Or is it only fish?
no, fish and potato and you can add lemon.
Okay. Do you
Mm-hmm.
also add vegetables like tomatoes, onion, jalapenos, anything like that?
No, it's different to prepare in different places or different places of Peru. For example,
Okay.
in the north,
Mm-hmm.
um, the people put mm, the people put another another compliments,
Mm-hmm.
other something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
and
That's
another part,
yeah.
the people add tomatoes. Yeah.
Ah, okay. So would you
Mhm.
say ceviche in Peru is a seafood dish?
Um,
Because it has fish, right?
yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's I
Yes.
the reason I ask about ceviche is because my family is Mexican. So when my grandma makes ceviche for us, I'm not a big seafood person, but sometimes I eat it and she sometimes she puts in all of these different things and that's why I don't like it because it's a lot. But I think if I remember correctly, she puts in octopus, shrimp sometimes, um, like some fish. I don't even know what kind of fish. But then she also puts in tomato, onion. I want to say jalapenos to give it some spice, and then lemon juice, of course. So
Yes.
that's why when you say ceviche, that's what I picture.
In the north, you can add, for example, the corn,
Ooh, okay.
some corn. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's different in different parts of Peru.
Yes. Yes, it's
Nice.
different.
That's cool. And then you mentioned the other typical normal dish in Peru is arroz con pollo.
Yes.
Okay, which in English for everyone watching us on the live, arroz is rice, pollo is chicken, so rice and chicken. Nice, that's so
Yes.
cool. Now I know what to
Yes,
eat when I go
the
to Peru.
rice is real. Yeah, the rice is real
It's real?
in a rock.
Okay. What do you mean the rice is real though?
It's green. Green.
Wait, say it in Spanish. What do you mean?
El arroz es verde.
Ah,
Eso
it's
tiene, ajá.
green
O
rice.
sea, el arroz con pollo,
Uh-huh.
green. Ajá.
Wait,
Yeah.
I've heard. So the only way I've heard of green rice was because they put, I want to say spinach
Yeah.
and some other green vegetable. I forget what it's called, but they mixed it in the rice, so the rice comes out green. Oh, interesting. This makes me want to go to Peru even more, honestly.
Yes.
So,
It's
Selena,
very delicious.
yeah, I bet, of course. So tell us, what is your journey with English? Like, why did you start learning? How did you start learning? Yeah, why? I already said that.
Well, I remember that I started English, study English at the ITNA.
Okay.
And I remember when I was 12 years old. Right now, I am 19 years old.
18?
Yeah.
Okay. 18 or 19?
19.
19. Okay, I heard 18.
19.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you've been learning for 17 years? Since you were 2, you
Yeah.
started?
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Okay. And this is all in school?
And no, it's in an institute.
Okay.
Yeah. But in my school, yeah, I study English like a course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But in the schools, some schools don't 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 think that other the other language is more important. For this reason, the schools teach only the English basic, the basic English.
Yeah, basic English.
Yeah. The basic English, yes.
I understand that though, and honestly, I kind of agree. I always think it's so sad when cultures want, like for example, English is the most widely spoken language in the world, and so I always think it's sad when cultures say, "Don't speak our native language, speak English." You know, when they say some form of that, and I think it's sad because that's what makes us unique as people. You know, if we stop speaking our languages, then it's kind of like we're losing ourselves a little bit, you know, as a whole, as a people, right? As people of that culture is what I mean. I find, for example, with immigrants, people who come to the United States, I've heard so many stories where parents bring their children, and the parents might speak, let's say, Spanish from wherever country. They speak Spanish, but then they tell the kids, don't speak Spanish, only speak English. Like, learn English, right? And then the kids grow up learning English and they don't speak Spanish, and then we now have a generation of people who are losing a little bit of their culture because of the language. And so then I
Yes.
always think it's a little bit sad. I think we should embrace our own cultures. Just learn about ourselves and our own history, maybe our own. What's the word? Our own cultures. Yeah, just our own cultures.
Mhm. Yes, I agree with you. I think that people need to learn all, no, some, well, more
Yeah,
language.
yeah,
Yeah, because um, because each
hmm
language is very important now.
yeah,
Huh?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's okay to learn English, but also keep your native language. That's just my
Yes.
opinion. Some people think differently.
Mhm.
But you wanted to go over passive voice specifically. Do you have trouble with it? What exactly? Like, why did you want to go over passive voice?
Okay. And about the passive voice, I think that um, um, I think that it sounds difficult for many people
Okay.
because you can change the the past, no, the
Yeah.
time,
Oh,
yeah, the
yeah.
time.
The tenses. Yeah.
Yes. Uh, for me, it's difficult, no, some difficult.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, that's no
Yeah.
problem. So let me go ahead and share my screen. We are going to go over this. I want to go over first what passive voice is, and then what is active voice, and then we can get into kind of how to do and how to manage. And then obviously we can do a little bit of practice, hopefully, if we have some time. Sound good?
Okay.
All right. So passive voice. So we use passive voice to show interest in a person or object that experiences the action versus showing interest or showing interest in the person that performs the action. So basically, what this means is active voice is what we normally learn. It's usually what we are told is better to use. There are some situations when we should use passive voice, but active voice is really the more common voice, if you can think of it like that. Um, but passive voice is basically that the important, the most important thing in the sentence becomes the subject of the sentence. So, an example would be something like the house was built in 1654. The most important thing here is the house, right? The year is not so important. The house is important because it's at the front of the sentence or because it's the subject of the sentence. Does that make a little bit of sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, Selene, go ahead and interrupt me whenever you want if you have any questions. And then, of course, everyone watching us on the live. If you've watched us before on the Facebook Live, you'll notice that I'm not sharing the comments because I want you guys to be able to see my screen a little bit bigger. So, but I do have your comments on another page. I can see your comments. Hi, Karina. Hi, Karu. Welcome. Good morning. Everyone else watching us on the Facebook Live, say hello and where are you from in the comments. And then if you have any questions, of course, you can put them in. But back to passive voice. Yeah, so basically, the subject of the sentence becomes what is important. So this is one situation where we should use passive voice to make, obviously, the subject be important. In this last sentence, the road is being repaired. Yeah. So if you notice here, we also don't know who is repairing the road. So that's the other way or the other reason why we should use passive voice. If we just don't know who is doing the action, right?
Mhm.
Um it's exactly what I mentioned just here. So when we don't know who's doing the action or um who is doing the verb of the sentence, then we use passive voice. I noticed that a window had been left open. I don't know who opened the window. I don't know who left the window open, so I just noticed that it was open, right? It's not so much, I mean, it's kind of like saying the window was opened by someone. It's kind of the same meaning, even though I know the window was opened by someone is still passive voice because we're using the preposition by, and I'll explain that a little bit more. But if we wanted to turn this into active voice, we would say someone opened the window. Does that make sense a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So by using the word someone, or, well, in this case, someone, right? Someone, we don't really know who someone is. So someone opened the window or someone left the window open has the same meaning as I noticed that a window had been left open. Because in both situations, we don't know who left the window open, but one is passive, one is active voice. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we'll talk about as well how to switch between passive and active voice between the sentence structures, right? But I wanted to go over this a little bit more, or just a little bit first, really. So another situation where passive voice is used is in formal text, like in formal writing. The active voice is a little bit clearer and easier to read, but the passive voice, some people would say that passive voice makes you sound a little bit more educated. And honestly, this is really just dependent on the situation, on the text, on who's going to read your writing, all of that stuff. Usually we would say active voice is the better voice to use. This is just kind of, I don't know, it's like general, we all agree kind of thing. But so some examples would be a great deal of meaning is conveyed by a few well-chosen words in passive voice. So is conveyed here tells us that it's passive voice versus a few well-chosen words convey a great deal of meaning. The convey here is what makes it active. Notice how a great deal of meaning is the subject. That's what is important in the sentence here in the passive voice. Whereas in active voice, a few well-chosen words is the subject, and that's what's important. So again, it just depends on if you know who is doing the action, then you can or don't have to use the passive voice. And depending on what you want to highlight or what subject you want to be important in the sentence. Yeah? So typically, like I literally just said, if you don't know who's doing the action, then we use passive voice. But I gave an example earlier. If you do know who's doing the action, you can still use passive voice, and all you have to do is add the preposition by. So by adding who is doing the action, passive voice, still what it does is that it makes the subject the important part of the sentence. So again, for example, this house was built by my father means the same thing as my father built this house. Except in passive voice, the house here is what is important. So this sentence could be, for example, let's say I'm standing in front of a house with my friend, right? And let's say my father passed away already, he died, and we're just looking at this house, and yeah, this is the first time I come to this house. This house was built by my father. He loved it, he lived in it with, blah, 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 blah. So in that situation, we're making the house the important subject versus if we say, yeah, my father built this house, my father becomes the important subject in the sentence. Does that make a little bit of sense, Selene?
Yes.
Perfect. And of course, everyone wants...
I have a question.
Yeah.
You always use by if you know the person that do this action, or
Yeah, if you're going to use passive voice and you want to say who does the action, then you use by. So was directed by Spielberg. Spielberg is a person. was written by the Beatles. So by kind of tells us that, this action was done by this person, this group, whoever the object or the subject is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So active voice. Active honestly is, like I said earlier, it's the most common voice. It's actually the voice that we normally use in speaking and in writing, and it's actually um, the voice that we are told to use just normally, and have it be like our first option is active voice, our second option is passive voice, that kind of situation. So active voice, I'm not going to go into it too much because this is pretty normal. But active voice is when the subject of the sentence performs the verb's action. So again, kind of like I mentioned earlier, it's when the subject is doing the action versus the subject having the action being done to it. So if we notice, I'll just kind of explain it a little bit. The road, this is the subject, is being repaired. So the repairing, the action is being done to the road versus the cashier is counting. The cashier is doing, right, the counting of the money. So it's just kind of flipping things around. It's kind of the way that I see it.
Yeah.
You obviously still have a subject and a verb. And then the subject, whatever you choose for the subject, it's still going to be whatever subject you choose is going to be what's important. And so it just depends on whether you want the subject to be doing the action, or if you want the subject to have the action be doing it to it. So like backwards. We'll go into it a little bit more, but basically, the subjects are doing, right? And that's kind of what I wrote down here. They are doing the action. They are taking action. And then just a really quick side note down below here. A lot of people think it is best to use the active voice because it's more direct. A lot of people think it's more clear and it's easier to understand, which I think it is. And that's why we use it more often. But of course, it depends on the meaning and the information that you are trying to portray in your writing or in your speaking, because it works for both, right? Yeah, so let's go ahead and go into it a little bit more. So passive voice is formed of the verb to be and the past participle right up here. Ooh, I can't highlight. There we go. So in order to use passive voice, we use some form of the verb to be and the past participle of that verb, or of the subject. You know what I mean. So let's talk about this. So if we're trying to say something affirmative or something positive, and it's singular, so like one house was built in 1899, or if there's more than one house, these houses were built in 1899, right? Again, was built, versus if we want the negative, it wasn't built, right? Or weren't built. If we want to ask a question, which we can, was the house built in 1899, or were these houses built? So again, was, were, was, wasn't for a negative question. These here, I went ahead and wrote down all of the tenses, right? So I'll just go through these really, really quickly. So if you notice, we're going to use to clean as an example, but we've got the subject first, some form of the verb to be, we've got the past of cleaning, and then the rest of the sentence. So in simple present, super nice and easy, the house is being cleaned at the moment. That's simple right now. It's happening at this moment. Present continuous, the house is being cleaned at the moment, because it's still being cleaned. Yeah, like it's being cleaned right now, and then right now, and 5 minutes from now, and it's continuing to be cleaned. Simple past, the house was cleaned yesterday. Yeah. In past continuous, the house was being cleaned last week. So it started being cleaned last week on Monday, and then it continued being clean until Wednesday, something like that. Past perfect, the house has been cleaned since you left. So you left on Monday, the house was cleaned Monday afternoon, and then it's been clean since Monday afternoon up until now. It has been clean. It stayed clean. Past, that's what I said. Yeah. Past perfect, the house had been cleaned before they, oh, I missed a word, before they joined us, right? So past perfect, what was I trying to say? The house, go ahead.
In past perfect, you only use had, yeah?
Yeah, had.
Had.
Yeah, well, we also have has here in past perfect, right? So has or had, basically. But I was talking about, yeah, past perfect. The house had been cleaned before they joined us. So they joined us yesterday. Today's Friday. Yesterday they joined us on Thursday. The house was cleaned before Thursday. Is kind of what that means. Future tense, the house will be cleaned next week. Super simple. Future continuous, the house will be being cleaned tomorrow. Honestly, this is one of those tenses that we hardly ever use, but it's there, right? So again, kind of with the other continuous, the house will be clean. Today is Friday, for example. Tomorrow is Saturday. It will be clean tomorrow, Saturday, until Sunday, right? So it will be being cleaned. Present conditional. The house would be cleaned if they had their tools, right? That's kind of like, it's the condition. So if they have their tools, then they will clean the house. Past conditional, the house would have been cleaned if it had been sunny outside, for example. So again, conditionals, it depends on the condition. If this happens, then this will happen, right? And then obviously the last one, infinitive, the house must be cleaned before we arrive. That's just that.
Yes. And about the modal, you use, for example, will, could, and add be, and add the verb in past participle. Yeah.
Tell me one
Yeah,
more
about the
time.
modals verbs or the
Past what?
about the modal verbs. For example, will, could.
Could, I wouldn't necessarily say that could be used in, no, it can be used in passive. Let me think. The kids, no, we need passive voice. The kids could have gone, no, I can't see it. I can't see us using could in passive voice, honestly. If someone in the Facebook live watching us can give us a sentence with could for passive voice, please help us out. But I can't think of any right now on the spot. It would have to be would or will. We did a Facebook live on this, a class on the difference between would and will, and could and can, a few weeks ago. But I'm trying to think of a sentence. I don't think we could, honestly.
Because I looked this in about the modals verbs.
Yeah.
I search let's quick, and about the modal verbs I looked at modal verbs plus be and plus the verb in past participle in passive voice.
Yeah. So could, let's see, the cat could be, yeah, I'm thinking maybe the cat could be cleaned. I guess, yeah, that would technically count as passive voice. Yeah. The cat could be cleaned the cat could be free if it cleaned up after itself. That would, yeah, I guess that would work actually. That would be in past conditional.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So what's really important is that it's, I mean, I already mentioned this, but the subject is what's important, right? So the cat could be cleaned, or the cat could be free if it cleaned up after itself, right? Could be cleaned. I think it just kind of sounds a little weird, but it is passive voice. And it is, this sentence specifically that I just said is past conditional. So yeah. Yeah, nice. Well, thank you for that question. Very good. Alrighty. So, when to use active voice and when to use passive voice, right? So, kind of like I've already mentioned, active voice is more strong, it's more direct, it's also more clear and easier to understand. And passive voice is a little bit, is people think it's a little bit more subtle, it's a little bit more weak, even. People think that. Um, but some advice I can give is don't use passive voice just because you think it sounds fancier than active voice. And this is kind of what I touched on earlier. Some people think, oh, I'm going to use passive voice because it sounds nicer or it sounds more educated. But again, it just depends on um, where you're using it, why you're using it, who's going to read it, all of that. So um, the more widely accepted voice is the active voice. Yeah. I mean, this stuff we kind of already talked about. Another something else I do want to go over, which I also kind of already mentioned, is that the active voice, try to use more active voice in your writing or in your speaking. Unless you really don't know who is doing the action, then go ahead and do passive voice, which, if you remember, that's one of the times that we talked about using passive voice, when you don't know who's doing the action. Yeah. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and form these sentences, right? So going from active voice to passive voice, and I think this is the more common way that we would go versus going passive to active, right? So going from active voice to passive voice, just remember the important subject is at the beginning, right? So let's say we have the sentence, Marilyn mailed the letter. First, we gotta move the direct object to the beginning, right? So we move the direct object to the beginning of the sentence, making it the subject. Then we place the active sentence's object into a phrase beginning with the preposition by. So Marilyn is the original sentence. Marilyn mailed the letter. We're putting by in front of Marilyn, right? This is active voice, so we do know who is doing the action. So that's why we're adding by. So we're putting the original subject into the end of the sentence now, and we're putting by in front of it. So far we've got the letter, blah, 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 by Marilyn. Then we gotta add some form of auxiliary verb be to the main verb, and then change the verb's form, obviously, depending on the tense that you want to use, which we've also already gone over. So again, Marilyn mailed the letter. Mailed is the active voice form of to be in this situation. So we change it to was mailed. So it's the verb mail, to mail something, and then the be verb, right? Was mailed. So the sentence then becomes the letter was mailed by Marilyn. So instead of saying Marilyn actively mailed the letter, we're putting the letter to be the most important subject here in the sentence. And then the same thing, going from passive to active, we literally just flip the steps around. So we take the subject of the passive sentence, the passive voice sentence, and put it as the direct object. So at the end of the sentence, we take the form be with its auxiliary and change it to active voice. then we change the object after the preposition by becomes the subject, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is literally like a breakdown of how to go from one voice to the other. And then of course, if we this is because we're going from active voice to passive voice, we know who is doing the action, right? But going from passive voice to active voice, we might not know who is doing the action. So in that case, we obviously wouldn't have this step here, right? So then the sentence would end at mailed the letter. Where did it go? Where's my thing? Here. This is where it starts. Oh, here. Sorry. Yeah, so this is passive voice. So if the sentence just said the letter was mailed, it doesn't really work with active voice, right? You can't, in active voice, you need to have someone doing the action. So if you don't know who is doing the action and you go from passive voice to active voice, your active voice sentence would literally just be mailed the letter. So then, because kind of I think it was at the very, very beginning, the example I gave, if you're trying to go from passive voice to active voice, but you don't know who's doing the action, another word to put in here would be someone mailed the letter. My friend mailed the letter. Her teacher mailed the letter, right? So you put in another subject in there. Hopefully you know who it is, but if you don't know, most likely it's going to be someone. Everyone mailed their letter. No one mailed their letter, right? Because those are absolute words that we just don't really have an actual specific example for. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So I wanted to also provide a real world example. This is kind of what I see. This is kind of to help explain what we talked about earlier about some people think that passive voice sounds fancier than active voice, right? So this would be, for example, just a note, but it's a little bit more formal, right? Because this is a business communication. So imagine that this business is sending you a quick note, letting you know that an error has occurred with your account, but every attempt was made to remedy it. So something happened with your account, so your bank account, your whatever account, but they tried to fix it, right? So if you hear an error has occurred with your account, but every attempt was made to remedy it, this is very subjective. So this really does depend on each person, but this is kind of where this is just kind of what a lot of people agree, right? So if we get this sentence, it's not that it's wrong. It's not wrong. It's still a correct sentence, grammatically speaking, but it sounds a little bit dishonest. Like, my bank account just sent me this notice that something happened with my account, and they're not really taking responsibility for it, is really what it is. So if instead my bank, for example, sent me this sentence, we made an error with your account, but we have made every attempt to remedy it. Then it's more, the bank is taking responsibility that they made a mistake with my account and they have already tried to fix it. So this now sentence, it's still, we made an error with your account. That part is, the whole sentence, sorry, is active. So now it sounds a little bit more direct. It sounds a little bit more that they are taking responsibility for this, right? But it's still kind of, like, this is what happened. There is responsibility, but not a lot, right? Except if they were to add this sentence down below, if there are any questions, I can be reached at this number. Now it's like, oh, okay, cool. They made a mistake. They tried to fix it. If I have any questions, no, if there are any questions, so I have questions, someone else has questions, anyone has questions, then we can reach them. But if you add the word you, if you have any questions, so that's me directly, right? Versus if there are any questions, call me at the number below. So this is a real world example of going from passive voice to active voice, right? Passive voice, like I said, a lot of people think that, oh, it sounds fancier, it sounds like I'm more educated, but in reality, it's not always the case, and it depends on the situation. Like here, for example, like if this was a bank, right? Does this make a little bit of sense, Selene?
Yes, I understand.
Nice. Very good. Very good. Alrighty. So I want to go ahead and do a little bit of practice here. So,
Okay.
Thomas feeds his dog. Is this active voice or passive voice?
I think that this is active.
Yeah, active, right? Very good. Exactly, because Thomas
Yeah.
is doing the action. He is feeding the dog, feeding his dog.
Yes.
Yeah. What about number 2? The family went to the beach.
Family went to the beach. I think that is active.
Active?
No. I'm confused.
So let's break it down, right? So the subject is the family. Your verb is what? What is your verb?
The verb is when.
Went, exactly.
Uh-huh.
Went as in
Went.
go, right? Going. And they are
Go.
going where? To the beach. So is the family doing the action? Is the family going?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's yeah.
There
Because
you
if this sentence can be the passive voice, first you can watch the beach. The
Exactly.
beach. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So if this sentence, and those of you watching us on the Facebook Live as well, I can see your comments. Thank you, Karu. Karu was agreeing with you that it is active voice. But you guys can also chime in, right? If you guys watching us on the Facebook Live, go ahead and write down what you think, if it's active or passive. But exactly, Selene, if this sentence were to be passive, how would we frame this sentence? What do you think the sentence would be if it was passive? So how can you change it to passive voice? Yeah.
Okay. In this case, is the beach. Where? When?
The beach was
By
right?
the family.
The beach
It's
is
good.
singular. So the beach was, what was your verb?
Sorry. The beach was when by the family.
It is correct grammar, right? The correct sentence structure, but was went is the only
Was
issue.
gone.
Yeah, I mean, the beach is a place, so you visit places. So in this case, you can't went. The beach can't be went, if that makes sense. But the beach can be visited. Yeah, you can visit the beach.
Okay.
So it's okay to change up the verbs, that's fine. But in passive voice, I would change this to the beach was visited by the family.
Yes, it's correct, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Like I said, some verbs, the beach can't be went, or the beach can't be go. The beach,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
I only memorize it. We change the verb and don't think about this sentence. Is really understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly, and that's funny because, like we said earlier, in active voice, like this sentence here, it's super easy to understand. The family went to the beach. That's it. But if we put it into passive voice, the beach was visited by the family. It kind of makes me stop and think, wait, the beach was visited by the fam. Oh, okay. So the family visited the beach. Okay. It's kind of backwards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is good. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Let's go ahead and do one or two more. The letter was written by Marshall. Active or
Okay,
passive?
this sentence is passive. Yeah.
Passive, right? Exactly. Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Literally was written and then by is your big clue that this is passive voice.
Yes, because you can look be and then the verb in past participle and then by. Yeah.
Exactly.
In
Exactly.
the order. Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah.
It seems like you're getting the hang of it. That's really good. Let's do this last one. The stuntman risked his life. What do we think? Is this active or is this passive voice? Karu agrees with you, by the way. The last one was passive. So, Selene, the stuntman risked his life. Is this active voice or passive voice?
I think that is active.
Active, exactly, right? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because the stuntman is the one doing the risking his life, right?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, dude, very
Uh-huh.
good. Very
Yeah,
nicely
I
done.
feel confused because I don't know how the meaning of the stand. For this reason, I feel confused. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
but then
okay.
I read his life, and then in this moment I think about that is active. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just vocabulary, right? We just got to increase our
Mhm.
vocabulary to know what this is. A stuntman, I'll let you know, is a person who um, does tricks and how do I say this? A stuntman could be someone, for example, in a movie. Say we have who's your favorite actor or actress
Um, my favorite actor,
or actress.
actress Emma Watson.
Okay, so let's say we've got Emma Watson, and
Mm-hmm.
she is doing a movie where there's a lot of action, right? She has to run and jump over things and do flips and um, just a lot of action, a lot of tricks, yeah. So say that she doesn't want to do those tricks. She doesn't want to jump over a car and do a flip in the air and then land on a motorcycle, which I think I saw in a movie. So let's just say she doesn't want to do that. So then she gets a stunt double, right? That means that she gets a person who looks like her, a double, two people. She gets a double that looks like her to do all of the stunts, so all of those tricks. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So then a stunt
Yeah.
man, so then that person who would look like Emma Watson, that person would be a stunt man, or in this case, a stunt woman.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Dulanjali says a stuntman is a person employed to take an actor's place in performing dangerous stunts. Dude, nicely worded, Dulanjali. Very good. But yeah, that's exactly what a stuntman is. Stuntman, stunt woman, stunt person. Yeah?
Yes.
All right, very cool. Well, it seems like you have a pretty good sense of passive voice already. Do you have any other questions?
Um. No, I think that is your that your ex one moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, your explanation is very well and
Good.
clearly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you understood it. That's literally all I've got for you. I mean, if I if I keep talking, I'm just gonna keep repeating myself when it comes to passive voice. Yeah. Um, them now. But Selene, that's pretty much all I've got for you. That's basically I would say a like what is this 50-minute summary of passive voice versus active voice. Yeah. Very good. Well, I'm
Yes.
glad you understand. Are you so? For those of you watching us on the Facebook Live, Selene joined us on our Monday speaking practice. And Selene, this was your first time joining us, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I remember. I
It's
noticed.
my first. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And this has happened already a few times where the person who wins this free class, it's their first time joining us on the Monday speaking practice. And I
Uh-huh.
mean, I think it's really cool. You join for the first time on Monday and then you get a free class right away. Like I think that's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But will I see you again on this coming Monday?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
it's very interesting. Yeah, I
Awesome.
like it.
That's so
Mm-hmm.
cool. That's awesome. And if you want to lead the practice, right? Like if you want to ask the questions, you're welcome to do that as well, just so you know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course, no problem. So that is all we've got for today. You guys, both you, Selene, and everyone watching us on the Facebook Live, join us on Mondays for the free speaking practices. We have free classes like this every week. We also have private classes, right? I work with several teachers who also give private classes to students. So that's one student, one teacher, one on one. Private classes, we also have online courses that you guys can take. So you buy the course and then you do the course on your own time. So there's no time pressure. You don't have to finish it by a certain day. We have lots of options, right? And then if you all have any questions, you can always just send us a message. Either I or my assistant will respond to your messages. But yeah, cool. Selena, it was really nice meeting you this week, and I hope I see you on Monday.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
see you the next week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.